That's all I can think of at the moment.
Well, that's very international, isn't it? Anyway, who are your fans?
Who are my fans?
Yes.
You mean the people that buy the records? Well, it varies. I think I have two different kinds of fans. I think I have fans that are very avid fans that will do nothing but they know more about me than I know about myself. They know all of my every recording I've ever made. They know every artist I've ever backed. They know every band I've ever played in. They put out newsletters and they will tell about things that I have forgotten about, and they will come to visit California and ask permission to go through my garage and my old boxes of all my old junk and rearrange everything nicely for me. It's not very neat out there. And then I have the fans that just buy records, which I would call, I guess is what you're talking about. They're not crazy like this other bunch, that are really fanatic about Ray Conniff and what he has done. But I love them, and it's very touching to me that there are people that think that much about me. Like at the moment of this interview, I lugged back 3 cans of 16 millimeter film that weigh about 40 pounds, and I built a wooden box and bolted it together so that I could bring them over here without them being destroyed or destroying my bag and my clothing. And it is very touching to me that there are people that are that impressed by what I've done that they want to preserve it through the years and uncover everything I've done. Things like a single record that I had completely forgotten about with Merv Griffin. I don't know if you have his television show over here. Was called Getting the Hang of the Meringue, which was a dance. And they reminded me of that one and many others that I complete. As a matter of fact, people always would come up to me and say that they would always ask me, how come in all the years you've recorded, you never recorded anything with Frank Sinatra? And I would always say, well, I know, I guess we just never got together. We're never on the same sound stage together or something like that. And lo and behold, they informed me that I had made 2 sides with Frank Sinatra. I guess it was back in the days when I used to drink a little too much. I haven't done that for many years now. But anyway, it was with Harry James Band, by the way. And the reason I forgot, I was excused for myself forgetting about it, because it would have been a very important occasion for me to record with Frank because I'm one of his admirers. And the reason I had forgotten about it was that Frank was not on the sessions. We did the sessions, Harry and I did the sessions, and Frank was not able to come to the sessions, so they overdubbed his voice at a later date. And that was one of the first times that had been done, putting a singer on when by not being present on a session. But anyway, then I have the fans that I guess, I don't get a lot of fan mail. I would say I get, what would it be? I probably get a letter about every 2 or 3 days, So that's what, about maybe 10 letters a month, 10 or 15 letters a month. And as a matter of fact, of late, there's been a lot of fan mail, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it's coming to my house. And finally, I started writing back to these people. Where'd you get my home address? And I got an answer back from somebody. Someone put a book out with my home address in it. And so it has become available to people. I get letters from people that run what they call celebrity auctions, and they want you to send anything, a button off your coat or a belt buckle or anything, and they'll auction it off, a picture, an album, autograph, whatever you have. I get one of those at least every month or every 2 weeks. And I have a big Latin following. I can't walk down the street in Los Angeles without someone saying, "Hey, Rye." They call me Rye. Rye Connie. We have a very heavy Mexican population in Los Angeles. And as a matter of fact, Vera and I, Vera being my wife, we have a lot of fun. When we go to South America, it's wild. It's like Elvis Presley would have been in England or the United States. They spot me and they follow me in droves, and I'm trying to walk and trying to take Vera shopping, and I'm trying to sign autographs, and I'm trying to make my way through the crowds. And we'll go in a restaurant and there'll be 300 people standing outside looking like this, you know, trying to look in to see where we're sitting. And
what age group is it?
What?
What age group?
That is a strange thing. Now, Latin America is much different than any other place I go. In Latin countries in general, Brazil as well, it's all ages. It's a very strange thing. I'll have like I was walking in the park last time I was in Mexico, in Alameda Park, and a lady come up to me. She was 85 years old, and she wanted my autograph, and she had all my albums. And she was so tickled to death to see me. And they know me down there because I do a lot of television in Mexico. There's a fellow by the name of Raul Velasco. He has a show called Siempre en Domingo. And he's syndicated throughout all the Latin countries. So they spot the white beard, all the Latins. And so they know me when I go out walking. And then while I'm talking with her and signing an autograph, there'll be a little kid who'll go by, no higher than, that. 5 years old, and he say, "Right, Connie," and say to his father, and he say, "Oh yeah, right, Connie." They'll pick their babies up, and they want me to kiss their babies. I don't know whether I'm supposed to make them have a well life for the rest of life or what, but it's in the Latin countries, it's all age groups. And I've watched at the concerts too to look, and I have a thing I like to do at concerts after, if I possibly can. I like to sign autographs, and I go out back on the stage and sign, and it's fun for me to see the age groups of the people that come up. So there, it's all ages. In the United States now, Vera always gets mad at me when I say this, but time goes on and things change, and I really don't like what I see happening in the record business in the United States. I'm not really sure what's happening in Germany because I'm not that into it here. But in the United States, there's one thing the record companies are interested in. I think it's called the bottom line. And they found that by putting out rock artists, and, I won't mention them. I'm sure you know who they are. They don't really seem to care about the content, the lyrical content of the material. They don't care if it excites young people or if it doesn't influence them for good. And this kind of bothers me in the record business. I think in the Latin countries, it has remained the way it used to be in the United States. I think the families are closer there, and I think that's the reason that all age groups like my music still in the Latin countries, because mom and dad say now here's a it's okay for you to listen to that rock group, and here's something you should listen to also. This is Ray Conniff, or this is Frank Sinatra, or this is Glenn Miller, and the radio stations will play all different records too. But I'd say in the United States that the people that remember me, they call me a legend now. Are people when I started out, the record club used to do research on the age group that bought my records, because they like to know how to aim their advertising. And at that time, the brunt of my buying my age group that bought my albums was from 18 to 35. Now I came out first album came out in 1956. And I was very, very strong in the United States, I'd say, for, a good 10 years, very strong, which is very unusual for an artist. I remember when I first recorded, I thought, well, if I last for 10 years and still sell records, I'll figure I'm lucky, because this is a very fickle business and it keeps changing. So if you want to do some arithmetic and figure out what those people, how old those people would be now. So, you know, it's in that part of the world, that's the brunt of my fans. But then there are also, there are young people too that seem to like the older things and the older sounds in music and the older songs. I feel the record companies in the United States make a mistake. I think there is a good market for the type of songs that I recorded in those days, the Gershwin, Cole Porter type songs. And I think they missed that market, and only because there's a faster way to make money. And I think this is not the right way to run a good business. I think you should reach all of the people and expose all of the people to all kinds of music if you're going to run a record company. And that's the way it used to be, and I think that's a good way to do it. It's not, I have to admit, it's not as sound business practice as just selling to people where you can make the most money. But I don't know, is that all there is in life, is money, you know, or is it kind of important to do what Edison intended when he first invented the phonograph, to bring entertainment into people's lives and their homes? And I think these kind of things mean more in the long run in life than how much money it can make and the bottom line at the company.
Well, anyway, let's go on with the present situation. Who selects the repertoire?
Well, on the repertoire for the albums, in the beginning, in the early days, as I mentioned previously, I was given a free hand on what to select to go in the albums, because I was chosen to do albums because I was being very successful as a background arranger for other artists at Columbia CBS Records. So at that time, 1956, Mitch Miller, being head of the company, thought, gee, if we're going to have something done by this guy, let's let him do what he would get into and do the best, because he is an arranger, and let him work on things that he likes to work on, and then the best will come out in him. He was a very smart man in that way, and he made many artists that way. He was responsible for the success of people like Doris Day, Frankie Lane, Johnny Mathis. Now, as time went on, like with all artists, I don't remember what year. I remember at the year I'm talking about, This Is My Song was #1 on the charts. So if you can remember when that was, about that time, at that time, there suddenly was detected a little sloping off in my sales. So at the time I was working with a producer called Jack Gold. And Jack came up with the idea, regardless of what you read in Clive Davis' book, he came up with this idea. Clive claimed later on that he came up with the idea. Jack came up with the idea of having Ray Conniff record today's hits, which, as I say, at that time, This Is My Song was #1 on the charts by Petula Clark. Petula Clark, I think, sang that. Yeah, I think so. Charlie Chaplin wrote the song. And so by this time we were doing 10 songs in an album. So we got 9 other songs together, and we put out the album, This Is My Song. And lo and behold, he was right. The sales of the Ray Conniff albums at least doubled, probably tripled. So we thought, good. I was doing 3 albums a year still, 2 or 3. And so, well, it worked once, let's do it again. So we did it again, and it worked about as well. I don't remember the second one. But the problem was that they thought, well, if it works with Ray Conniff, why don't we try it with Andy Williams? His sales are dropping too. And why don't we try it with Johnny Mathis? His sales are dropping. And why don't we do it with Percy Faith? His sales are dropping. So suddenly here are 4 or 5 artists at CBS Records, and they're all recording the same songs. And where we're getting our sales from are disc jockey airplay, and the disc jockeys were getting kind of annoyed with all of these artists coming out with the same songs, so they got mad at all of us and would only play the originals. So the whole thing backfired on us. Right now, My biggest sales are now in the Latin countries. They have remained faithful to Ray Conniff sound, and more so. I'm still selling everything I do down there. I get a gold album for, and I'm still selling just about as many albums as I ever sold in any time in my career, but most of them are now in the Latin countries. And so I have to rely upon their choice of material because they know the markets. I'm recording albums from markets that I am not familiar with. The CBS International in the United States will send telexes out. We're ready to do another Ray Conniff album. What would you like him to record? So they'll get a telex back from Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru. Oh, by the way, I left that country out when you asked where I had performed. I performed in Peru as well, Lima, Peru. And so they say, don't send us back just 10 songs, send us 20. So they try to pick 10 out of the answers they get from all the countries, and that's what I will record for that next Latin album. However, we have one coming out now that is called the 30th anniversary album, since I've been with CBS for 30 years at this time. And for this album, they are doing what I would like to do, and that's an album of standards. And standards that are known in all of the different Latin countries, songs like La Composita, Hernando's Hideaway. By the way, I did an interesting thing in that. I don't know if you remember an album I did some time ago called So Much in Love, where I mixed two songs together, have the same song going at the same time. I discovered in two of the songs that they wanted me to record, Hernando's Hideaway and La Composita, that they both had the exact same chord background. So I did that in that one cut. I put the two together, have both songs, one going against the other. Then we did The Peanut Vendor, Yours, let's see what else, Perfidia, Siboney, Bahia, April in Portugal. In other words, they are all songs that are very well known practically throughout the world, I would say. And I'm very excited about this album because this is the kind of song that I can tackle the best, because I think it's one thing I sometimes in interviews they ask me what I think of today's music. Music has had quite a change. The younger writers, not all the younger writers, but a large percentage of the younger writers have forgotten how important the melody is. To me, music is really three basic elements. It's rhythm, harmony, and melody. And it bothers me a bit. So many of the younger writers, they just go all out rhythm, 90% rhythm, and they have harmony in there. And I mean, the melody is no longer important, it seems to them. Again, I qualify that with exceptions. But these older songs, like, for instance, the songs I've done on the classics are a great example. If you take Tchaikovsky's love theme from Romeo and Juliet, if you play one finger on the bass line and one on the melody, you have practically a whole composition. You don't have that with today's music, with the younger people. They don't. The bass today is used as a rhythm instrument, not as a foundation for the chord and something to move contrary to the melody many times, and back and forth and weave in and out. And it's a pleasing sound that to the human ear that is being forgotten by the younger people, younger composers. And so this album, I asked them again to pick the songs they would like to have, but now they're picking from old standards, and you can't go too far wrong. And it gives me a chance to get my little patterns in and my little, I call them hooks in the arrangement, the recurring things, the little identifying things in an arrangement. So I'm very excited about this album. As a matter of fact, I'm now working on CBS in New York, trying to pressure them into letting this be the next release. They promised me a 1987 release following the Say You, Say Me 1986 release. So I'm hoping that we might get this to be a United States release.
What sort of music do you listen to in your leisure time?
In my leisure time, I don't listen to music. I get away from music.
Are there any favorite acts?
But I should say one thing, though. I don't want people to think I don't like music because I don't listen to it in my leisure time. But I hope you'll understand that if you're a painter, you don't go home and paint the house when you're on your weekends if you can get out of it, you know. I do love music, and I do love to listen to music. As a matter of fact, I just got a lot of fun out this last week, just before I came over here. I have a new clarinet player I'm going to use on the Brazil tour, which we're doing in about a week. His name is John Bambridge. He's a great friend of mine. He works on the Tonight Show, if you get that over here, the Johnny Carson show. He's a great jazz clarinet player. And Skeets Herford isn't going with me on this tour. So I wanted to present him because I think the people are going to be expecting Skeets because he's been with me so many years on tours that I want to give this fella a fair chance. So I got the idea of featuring him on a number. So what I picked was Let's Dance, the Benny Goodman theme. And so I got Benny's, went out and chased down 3 or 4 old Benny Goodman records that had Let's Dance in it. And I just love the way Benny plays. I love the old Benny band. I mean, I can sit and listen to that and not feel like I'm working. You know, it's fun for me. So I did, by the way, I did write it out for John. So it'll be on the next tour. If you get a chance to get anybody do a live recording of that, you'll hear him playing that. And I put a few of my own little innovations in and an ending on it. I love Louis Armstrong. I have Louis Armstrong records at home. I love to listen to Louis. You know, Louis was such a great musician, and Louis wasn't a school musician. He wasn't the kind of a musician I am where I studied and, you know, I know when I'm playing some chord, I know the name of the chord. But Louis, when I listen to his old records, I will hear him playing a song, and I'll hear the rhythm section chunking along on the chord, and when they come to the end of the 8 bars where there's a little turnaround to go back in the next 8 bars, I'll hear Louis go through a progression of chords that the rhythm section aren't playing. They didn't hear it. He heard it, and he'll play all the notes in this chord, and it'll be just beautiful, you know. But the guys, they didn't catch on to what he was doing. But he just had such a beautiful ear, and his time was so flawless. I never did like Louis singing. People get mad at me about that. I never liked to hear Louis sing. But, I mean, he had a great beat when he sang, and he was sincere. But I just love his trumpet playing so much that I wish he would play all the time. You know, I would give up every singing chorus to have him play that chorus. But let's see, I love Tchaikovsky. I think Tchaikovsky was one of the greatest melody writers of all time. I just love his melodies. And as I say, his writing, his complete writing, and the way he orchestrated, and the way, his bass lines were so great. You know, it is such a, I don't know why the young people don't realize how important the bass line is in music. The bass line and the melody are the 2 most important things. Victor Young was a great melody writer. I love the late Vic. Well, I say late, it's not so late anymore. Things like Stella by Starlight. Can't think of any others. I think Henry Mancini is one of the most, I say underrated, in that I think he's thought of as more of a pop, in today's idiom of pop music. Shouldn't use words like pop because people have put meanings to these terms now. Today's type of, I think what I'm trying to say is Henry is comparable to Tchaikovsky and Victor Young as a melody writer. I think few of us have this gift of great melody writing. I don't have it. I wish I had it. It's just a gift that not too many have. So if I were going to listen to music at home, Ver and I like to listen to like a Rubinstein playing Chopin, a record of Rubinstein playing Chopin. And she doesn't, you know, she's not into jazz like me, but I love the artists I've mentioned.
Well, we learned you are a very busy man, and well, perhaps there are some other leisure time activities or hobbies, and isn't there little time only for your family? Too little time.
It's true, there is too little time for the family. It's strange, though, because it seemed like just in the last a couple of years, you would think that by now I would be semi-retired and doing less at this period of my life, but I seem to be doing more. I think the reason for that is, though, Ver and I made a decision a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, that we were going to simplify our life. And at that time, at one time I had an office at a separate location with 3 people full-time working, and I cut that down to 1 person, and then we decided here, as I say, a few years back, that we were going to cut activities even more. So we closed the office, the separate office, which was a 2-room suite, and we built an extra room over our garage where my crazy fan club went through. That's a little joke on the side because they're here at this taping. And we put this office over the garage, and we moved all of the files. By the way, I wish you could see my file cabinets of the arrangements I've done. When I look at that file cabinet, I get tired. It covers a whole wall. I've done, well, now I think I just finished the 75th arrangement, and averaging, well, in the early days there were 12 songs to arrangement, to an album. Now I say 75 albums, I should say, and 10 to 12 songs to an album, and then singles on top of that. And here are all these arrangements filed in this filing cabinet, all this work I did. But anyway, what we didn't foresee was that the office used to answer the fan mail, the office used to take care of the bills, the office used to